Modular 3, Content Creation Blueprint. Your blueprint to creating quality content to attract and keep your audience. In this module, we're going to cover the mechanics of consistently writing quality content. Writing quality content is very sensitive, specialized work. It requires focused attention. You cannot be careless about your writing. Even a minor error can greatly damage the image that readers have about your work. Let's look at mistakes to avoid while writing. We've been over this, but it's important to repeat. Improper grammar and spelling is the most common, biggest, grossest mistake. Your ideas will lose their strength if they're communicated through incorrect grammar and spelling. How can someone have faith in you? How can someone trust your judgment if you're sloppy, if you're not consistent and precise, and you don't take the time to polish your grammar and spelling? Language mistakes. Emphasize helping your reader understand the content rather than using very difficult words. Use the KISS principle. Keep it simple. Break everything down in smaller portions. Reduce the need for someone to research what you're trying to tell them. Make it easy. Include the definition of an uncommon term if you have to use an uncommon term. Otherwise, use terms as common as possible. Losing focus. Now, this is very important. When you're not clear of what you're writing and why, your audience can become confused and they don't find your writing informative. Remember the 4 terms, 2 of them which are unique and informative. Okay? So it's important that the audience feels like, hey, I'm learning something here. And that's why they want to come back to you again. Another mistake people make often, very frequently, and they do this to try to position themselves in the search engines, is just working on the keywords only. Somebody will think, well, if I need to put bass fishing in every sentence, I'll use bass fishing, then that'll help me in my SEO and ranking me on Google and different search engines. A good writer will only enter keywords where they are required. Selecting the wrong niche. Selecting a niche in which an audience is not interested will cost you money, time, and your audience. Now this goes back to the other brick we put in our foundation. The other page of our blueprint is research. You analyzed your audience first, which was a type of research. We discussed this in the earlier module. Then you did the research required for that audience. So if you did your job right, you should select a niche that the audience is interested in. We're still looking at mistakes. Another mistake is having a poor title. Now, if your title doesn't grab someone's attention, they're not going to open it. They're not going to go even read what you've written. So you've wasted your time writing your whole content, all the research you've done, if you use a bad title. A lot of creativity is required to come up with a good title that catches the eyes of the readers. Copying content. If copied content is made available, people will prefer reading the content of others, especially the original content. Don't ever, ever, ever make that mistake. Self-praising. Now, many times people that they don't feel confident about themselves or they have a low self-esteem, they'll talk about how good they are. Hype with no proper information is nothing but a waste. Don't get involved in it. You don't need it. You want other people to say how good you are. And they will. Using uninteresting content. We're looking at mistakes to avoid. Content should be organized in a manner that readers don't get bored and tend to lose their interest. To avoid these mistakes, once you've written the content, You should counter-check the spelling, the punctuation, and all other mistakes that were discussed above. Let's look at the term revision and the purposes of a revision. You need to revise your document. Remember, you've written your draft, you've written your outline, you've done your draft. Now you're going to polish it. So revising your document is important. You do that to become aware of any mistakes that you've made. And I tell you, it's important to do this several times. And if you can get someone to do it once or twice for you, that'll really help you out. Revision should start at the time you start writing, so that you keep working on your mistakes and you keep making changes appropriately as you proceed. You don't want to get caught up by waiting until you finish to do your revision. It's a good idea to develop the habit of, as you're writing, if something doesn't flow freely or you're not satisfied with it, change it. You might discover a mistake in a concept. Change it. That mistake, if you wrote your whole article and you went back and changed it, then you might have to rewrite your whole article, and that costs you time. Time is money. Revision is done in order to discover and rectify mistakes made in grammar, spelling, punctuation, or sentence formation. You know, you've probably heard the old saying, the only person that doesn't make a mistake is someone that hasn't done something. Well, don't worry about making mistakes. Let's just get out there, locate them, and fix them. Sharpening purpose and detail. This is another purpose of revision. It helps you improve your content. It enhances the purpose. It also increases the depth of the content. So as you're making your revisions, a lot of times something was sitting in the back of your mind, it pops forward into the front of your mind, and it clarifies. And then so you make a few changes in what you've written that helps expand that clarified concept. Revision will enable you to inject new ideas. It'll add more information wherever needed, making your document more and more interesting to the reader. So let's look at how to carry out a revision. First of all, you need to explain your main idea. You emphasize more and more in depth, more exposed your main idea. Be sure that you're talking to your reader. Once you've expressed your ideas and you revise them and you present them in a manner so that you're talking directly to your reader, just like I'm talking directly to you now. It's as if your reader were sitting in front and you're having a conversation. That'll help your reader feel like they're part of what you're doing. Now, rereading the document allows you to read it from an audience's perspective and remove any confusion. So you kind of like change hats when you're doing your final revisions. After you've written your draft and you're doing the final rereadings of the document, now you want to look at it from not the perspective of writing and explaining. You want to be in the chair of the person that's reading this for the first time. Is it understandable? Is it taking you to point A, from point A to point B, B to C, etc.? Is it taking you naturally through a natural flow to the conclusions that you're expressing? Is your introduction really tell them what to expect? Correcting the mistakes, remove any mistakes regarding grammar, language, punctuation, and sentence formation, and any other mistakes that you have in there. Revision is very important if you want your content to be of high quality. The best writers revise a document a number of times. Part of revision is proofreading and editing. Proofreading means to read the entire document after it's completed in order to identify and fix any mistakes. Sometimes it's really a good idea to have another person doing the proofreading. But with proofreading, you can identify the errors and then you do the required editing to come up with a final copy. You improve the quality of your content. You check your errors and the following 4 errors while you're proofreading: typographical errors, spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, and punctuation errors. Those are the main things you do when you're proofreading. But you can also adjust for the clarity of your ideas, the clarity of your argument, any mistakes in your sources. The proofreader should understand the meanings behind your sentence. This is another reason it's good to get someone else to proofread it after you've finally done everything. And that will give you the feedback you need before you put it out there to your audience. If your proofreader understands what you're saying, then you've done your job. Proofreading and editing takes time. You must not misunderstand its importance. Skipping this important step can cost you dearly. And that's also part of your blueprint. You need to make time. You need to program your work so that you have scheduled in your work schedule time for proofreading for yourself and for someone else. So let's remember, the best writers revise the document a number of times. You definitely don't want someone else to highlight your mistakes. E.B. White said, "The best writing is rewriting."